It is your Classic Metal Show right here on theclassicmetalshow.com. That's brand new stuff from a band called King Hitter. The name of that tune is called Drone Again, and on the line right now is the King Hitter of all King Hitters. It's the legend himself, Karl Agell of King Hitter. Karl, how are you, man?
Hey, I'm great. How are you doing?
Excellent, dude. Well, Karl, I've got to tell you, man, I am a ginormous fan. As big of a fan as you could be. Blind has been played, 10 million times in my player. So,
wow, thank you.
You know, I'm definitely a big fan, and I got to tell you, man, right off the bat, I'm liking this King Hitter as much as I liked anything you ever did with COC and Leadfoot and
really?
Anything else that you've done, and I'll tell you exactly why. It keeps the formula kind of intact, that whole desert rock, doom rock thing that you do, but at the same time, the production's a lot bigger and a lot stronger, and it just seems like there's a lot more aggression than I've heard from you in a lot of years, man. So great work right off the bat.
Thanks. Yeah, Scott and I have been playing together for 16 years. He came out of on board in the second Leadfoot album out of the three we did, and we just kind of came together. We started jamming with old friends, and it was really cool. Things were clicking, and we realized that everybody involved was a capable songwriter, including John and Chuck, the drummer and bassist. And it's just a really, really easy, fun, communal process. And so good to go back to the heavy, aggressive stuff of my past. So it was a lot of fun.
Sure. Now, Karl, let's talk a little bit about King Hitter. You know, for people, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are not aware of the band yet. So talk a little bit about how the band came together and who all is in the band, and, you know, what made you decide to form this new band at this point in your career.
Well, things hadn't been going well for Leadfoot in a while. Not necessarily poorly, just we hadn't had a lot of lineup changes and tons of material, but just seemed to have lost a little bit of momentum. So Scott and I decided that we were, hey, let's go back a little bit to our heavier past. And we had, like I said before, mutual friends, good friends, trusted friends that have been in bands that we had all played with before. John and Chuck used to be a bassist and drummer. They were in a band called Sex, Love, and Money out of Greenville, North Carolina. And they were signed to Sony for about a minute, just like everybody else. And let's see, we found Mike was from Scott's old band South of Heaven, and the band called Cutterhead. Anyways, we just knew each other, and we said, hey, this is going to be a good combination. And started jamming, and finally solidified every weekend, and all the songs just came.
Sure.
And we had more songs than we thought we'd have, and it was a lot faster than we thought. And we said, hey, let's record these just to see where we're at, and that's how the EP came about.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about the songs and about the musical style. As I said a little bit ago, it's definitely not that far away from what you're known for in the past. How much do you feel that your past has helped this band develop?
Oh, for sure. I mean, right now, for example, I'm on tour. I'm calling you from Columbus, Ohio.
Sure.
And we're out on the Cavalier Conspiracy Tour during the COC Blind album in its entirety every night. And so, COC has, it's given me the bully pulpit, I guess, and allowed me to get maybe a little bit more attention drawn to this than if I were just cold calling, because I have a past, obviously. So, and that becomes really apparent with King Hitter. It's just, like you said, a similar vibe. Lyrically, it's similar in that way, and it's aggression, So, sorry about rambling here.
Oh, it's fine, man. Well, dude, what are the plans for King Hitter? I'm going to assume from the EP and from the fact that you said you guys had a lot of songs that there's a full length, on the horizon.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Actually, the immediate plans for King Hitter. Tomorrow, Reed has to take a break off this tour, the COC Blind stuff, and he's going to go do the COC 4-piece stuff at a big beer festival down the street from us. So we're going to have King Hitter is hitting the stage in Joliet and Milwaukee tomorrow night and the next night, Friday and Saturday, and that'll be a really good way to get the word out all of a sudden, outside of our own home state.
Sure.
And so the plan is obviously when we get back to start doing some regional touring and keep writing the next album. And we're more than halfway there.
Okay.
Next album. So yeah, it's really cool. So we should be in the studio hopefully by the late fall, and we'll be doing dates, playing up to that point. And I really want this new album out by this time next year.
Excellent. Excellent, man. Well, dude, whatever this style of music is called, and I've heard it called everything from doom rock to desert rock to, whatever. I don't know why you'd call it desert rock when a lot of you guys are from North Carolina, but whatever,
Yeah, we don't have much desert there. So, yeah.
But it's interesting that right now, after several thousands of bands have tried it and it didn't hit, right now seems to be the time that it's making the strongest mark it's ever had, at least here in the States. Why do you think it took so long for this style to catch on, and why do you think now it is catching on?
Well, everything's cyclical, everything old is new again at some point, and obviously I'm incredibly grateful if my timing is correct, and people are going back to albums like the COC Blind album, and I think it's just really at the end of the day about good music, and just sometimes there's bands catch a break and they can ride that wave of people both coming back to and then new younger people maybe discovering for the first time the power and the passion, if you will, or whatever, or insightfulness and aggro that's wrapped into this, which is also a very musical form too. I think a lot of these particular bands pride themselves on writing good hooks too, not just playing loud and fast or big power chords.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that's what we try to do, is actually write actual songs.
Sure, definitely.
That's really important. Don't bore us. Get to the chorus, right? So you can throw out a lot of stuff out there, and you still, I think, you have to give something for people to come and bite into.
Sure. Now, Karl, I put you personally, your work in the same category, kind of as a guy like John Garcia from Caius and Vistacino and every other band he's ever done.
Well, that's great company to be in. I hold him in the highest regard, man. It's a true talent.
Well, he definitely is, and I think you are too, for very much the same reasons as obviously you're both singers, but more to the point, you both have maintained, even as the times have changed and the bands have changed and whatnot, you've maintained a core sound that stays your own and doesn't adapt to genre changing or what record companies want or anything. You've really kind of developed your own thing and kept it no matter what the label was that was, taped on the front of the disc. Do you see yourself that way, or do you not even look at it that way?
I think, at the end of the day, I just do what I want to do, and it certainly hasn't been about making the best choices at all the right times. I'll say that much.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But when it comes to writing, though, it's just I can't really detract from, or it's very difficult for me to get excited about imitating something else or trying to be current. I just kind of go for it, and with the people that I'm around, and whatever riffs they're throwing at me and vibes they're around me, that's the influences what I'm going to sing and go on about. So I feel like I've always been true to myself, to be honest, and whether that's, like I said before, timed well with things or not, so be it. But
right.
Obviously, you got to feel good about what you write, and be able to live with it. At least I do.
Sure, certainly. Well, Karl, let's talk a little bit about this current tour that you're doing with, I guess you would call it your other band, with the COC, right. With the COC Blind. How did this come about? And I'll start there. How did this tour come about?
Well, Reed and I made amends, many years ago, and always felt like here's this really interesting part of a great COC legacy, amazing legacy that's still alive, still going. But here's a piece of it that we should be very proud of that didn't get played out very much. a very limited run, and a very unique sound, and part of a transitional period for the band. And we said, people want to hear this. People keep coming back to it, saying this. So let's try to put together as many of the original members as we can. Well, that hasn't been very easy,
right,
for whatever reasons, but that's the way it goes. But the most essential thing I could think or make, with Blind is, and I'm not downplaying the guitar or bass stuff, but the vocal, the lyrical content, and the amazing drumming that Reed is,
sure,
capable of and delivering every night now, and that's the reason we just said, hey, let's look. There's people dying to see this all over the world that haven't seen it. So we tried a run in 2009. It's kind of a limited regional thing in the southeast. Then again, this is up the East Coast, 2011, I believe. But just for some reason, like you were saying, the winds are blowing the right direction now, and Blind was reissued on vinyl by Prosthetic Records.
Okay. On
180-gram vinyl, 23 years after the fact. Just like people are talking about Blind, it's like you said, everything's come back right now, and people want it. So it kind of just everything's clicking.
Sure.
Reed had a period of time too that he had to fill, where he's been doing some COC 4-piece stuff with Pepper over in Europe, and he had a window, like a 2-month window to fill. And he said, "Hey, did you want to go out and do some blind dates?" And yeah, I said, "Sure, let's do it." And we got our old friend Jerry Barrett, who had played with us the last 2 times we tried it, to come out and play bass. He was played bass with HR for the Bad Brains,
okay,
a solo project. So that's his background. And then the 2 guitar players in this are the King Hitter guitar players, Scott and Mike. So
okay.
3 fifths of King Hitter are out here doing this right now. So it works really well.
Sure, certainly. I'm curious though. Do you think that, I mean, for all the good that the internet does and getting the information out there and whatnot, do you think people understand exactly what it is that you're bringing, especially when there's, in essence, 3 COCs all playing, kind of at the same time? There's COC Blind, there's the 3-piece, and now there's the 4-piece. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it has lent itself to confusion, and that's too bad. But, all I can do is tell the promoters and the booking agents and the press and the people out there that what this is, specifically Reed and myself, just doing a special event for it. Celebrating this piece of the legacy. We don't detract from anything the current or former COCs are doing. We think it's the rising tide lifts all ships, everybody's benefits.
Sure.
Because we should be very proud of all these facets that brought COC to where it is now.
Absolutely.
And Blind is a really, really major building block. And, it is, band politics and egos and stuff. People get concerned about this and that. But I don't feel the fans should get too wound up. I think, you don't have to pick a camp. You just have to take it for what it is. If it's not your cup of tea, don't come out. But if you like the Blind album, we're doing a really good performance of it.
Sure.
That's that at the end of the day.
Absolutely. So ultimately what you're saying is the big mega COC tour with all the previous members is not coming anytime soon.
Well, you know what? I would do it in a heartbeat.
Okay.
If we could get everybody together, do one big thing, I'd love it, man. I have no problem with that. That's a tall, drink, whatever. That's a tall
Sure.
order to fill, So I don't know. Is it possible or partially possible? I hope so down the line. But have you heard about Teenage Time Killers at all?
I have. I was going to go there as well.
Okay, sorry. So that kind of plays into the fact that there's a lot of different, COC people playing on that.
Sure.
And a lot of different characters from the past.
Sure.
In all the punk and metal bands. Anyways, go ahead.
Well, you brought it up, so we can go there. That's obviously that is yet another project that you're involved in right now. You, I know you did lead vocals on at least one tune on this Teenage Time Killers, a record that most people are promoting as a new Dave Grohl thing, but is actually kind of like every legend and icon in the history of doom desert rock music that there is, so talk a little bit about how that monster project came together.
Well, it's Reed Mullen really is the core of this.
Okay.
Reed from COC. and he was jamming, just going to do a couple songs with his pals out at Dave Grohl, the Foo Fighters Studio 606. And he had friends there, and they decided they were, Grohl, I guess, had the three-piece recording there at one point, and then Reed made good friends with the studio and everybody there, and said, hey, they came up with the idea of getting kind of a group of players together and celebrating some of the great singers of the punk rock, hardcore and metal past, of these bands. Kind of almost like a Probot thing,
Sure.
But different as well. And yeah, Dave Grohl figures into it. Dave Grohl actually plays bass on the track I'm singing on. But he's just providing he's not like running the show, so to speak.
Sure.
He's just part of the bigger swirl.
Mm-hmm.
And Reed is pretty much played on almost every track except a few. So he's one of the constants on through there. It's like 22 tracks or something like that.
Yeah, some big number.
The who's who, of a lot of great singers, there's a funny story. There's a poem that John Cleese wrote about Sean Hannity.
Right.
Fox News.
Right.
And Reed took those words and put them to music, and they got Jello Biafra to sing those words. Jello from the Dead Kennedys.
Right,
so
sure.
It's that kind of thing, and John Cleese's people gave the thumbs up so he could do it. It's kind of cool. But I don't know. There's a lot of just cool, crazy, different tacks on this record. Just an homage to a great past.
Sure, definitely, man. Well, Karl, as we've been talking, I don't want to get too far away from the fact that of the main thing that we're talking about, which is this great new EP called simply King Hitter by the band King Hitter.
Yeah.
And, I'm assuming that because the EP is out and because you're working on other stuff with it, that the next 12 months are going to be busy for the band. So what's coming up for you in the next year?
Well, that's hard to say exactly. I think we'll be trying to build our name this year. You know what I mean? Trying to get, I think we're getting a decent online presence, but nothing beats seeing a band live.
Right.
Not just YouTube, not just liking their Facebook page. That's all very good. I encourage that. That's great. But the main thing is to be able to actually be a live, actual band in a venue, and bring it to the crowds, or whoever's interested. So that definitely figures into this coming year. That's the plan, is to do as much regional stuff as we can handle and go where people want to hear us play. And also, we're very interested in going overseas, and it looks like we have a lot of good connections to do that. So, and obviously, we'll be in the studio, like I said, I think by the late fall, and then gear up for a much bigger launch for next year. Take it to the next level.
Sure.
It seems like the EP is getting some traction, though, which is cool. So.
Excellent, man. Well, dude, before I let you go, I have to ask you what's known as the traditional classic metal show question. We've asked hundreds and hundreds of people this. Everybody seems to have an answer. I'm sure you will as well. How has Lemmy from Motorhead influenced your career?
I can tell you, honestly, he's massively influenced me. Massive. Was the first metal band that I really liked coming out of the punk rock scene. That was Motorhead's considered one of the great transitional, ultimate crossover bands. It stands, with the punks and the metalheads and everything in between. Lemmy's just an amazing guy, coming out of Hawkwind, starting Motorhead. I actually saw the 10th anniversary show at the Hammersmith Ballet randomly in 1985. I was there.
Wow.
I saw the 10-year show with Wendy O. Williams and everything. That was really, really cool. I've seen Motorhead many incarnations through the years. The first, hang on one second.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
The first tour that COC Blind did in Europe was in 1990, and we, Woody, Pepper, and myself decided to go for a walk and just get a drink at a local pub in London before the tour started. And we walked into this bar, and there was Lemmy playing a video game, a video poker or whatever he was playing, as he always does.
Right.
And we walked up to him, and I said, man, I can't help it. I got to go say hey to Lemmy. It was the first time I met him, and I walked up and started talking to him, and he figured out pretty much who we were right away, and he said, "Your band has the second greatest logo in the world." And then he bought us all some whiskey and stuff. I still have the glass.
Nice.
Somewhere. Yeah, I was like, amazed. You know, the guy's so cool, and I've run into him many times over the years, you know, for different versions of, you know, of the band and stuff. But, man, he's just the godfather of all this. I just hold him in the highest regard, obviously.
Very cool, man. Well, dude,
Stone Deaf forever, man.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, dude, the name of the band, the name of the EP, and you know, the name of the song that we can play if you want to is King Hitter. As a tradition, we always let the artist pick a closing track and tell us a quick story about it. So, pick the tune if you want that one. Tell us a story about it.
Oh, which you want me to pick the outgoing track?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Saying, okay, anything off the EP?
Yeah.
Wow. How about
the only one?
Pain?
Which one?
Feel No Pain.
Okay. And why that one?
Have you guys? Why that one? Because it's kind of anthemic. It's kind of like a big celebration of just the rock and roll, big, heavy metal rock. You know, there's kind of a little Easter eggs thrown out through that song of little lyrical snippets that I borrowed from many, many different bands, like Alice Cooper, The Sweet, Motorhead, Aerosmith. Just these little nuggets of like lines I stole. And then it's just a fun celebratory romp. There you go.
Very good. Well, let's check it out right now. This is brand new stuff from King Hitter right here on your Classic Metal Show.